What's good, YouTube? I appreciate y'all tuning back in. I'm hoping to make the video short today, but I do have a lot of things that I really need to get done in the garden. Everything that I've done already, I probably made previous videos of how I'm going to do it. But I'm gonna just give a quick rundown of what I plan on doing, and I'll probably just bring it back at the end of it just to show an update of what everything looks like. And then there's one more thing that I was planning on doing, possibly just transplanting the tomato plants, because I really want to get them in the ground before it rains tomorrow. But I don't think they're quite big enough or as big as I really want them to be to put in the ground. But I'll decide that after I finish doing the rest of these tasks. And if I do transplant the tomatoes, I'll record that, because it is a little bit of a different process. But as of right now, what I plan on doing is harvesting some of this arugula, which is the same way you harvest like the lettuce and spinach that I showed in my previous videos. I think I'm gonna harvest some of this kale right here just to go ahead and basically prune it down and get some more new growth going, and go ahead and eat the kale leaves that it's already provided. I think I'm gonna have to weed the garden a little bit, so you see some of the weeds that are right there in that little the scarlet kale square. So I'm gonna pull some weeds probably as well too. I might harvest some of these collards. Same process with harvesting collards that you do with lettuce and arugula, spinach, all of the other leafy vegetables. And then if we go back here, nothing over here is pretty much ready to harvest. Once the carrots and stuff become ready, you can see, I mean, they're starting to get a lot of good growth. But once they become ready and start to poke out the ground, I'll definitely make a video on how to properly harvest carrots. Same with the beets, and then more beets and carrots right there. Nothing to harvest on this side, but I think I'm gonna have to harvest some more of this lettuce, Swiss chard, and spinach as well too. Water everything, and then like I said, if I feel like if I look at the tomato plants and some of the pepper plants, and if they're ready to go, I may go ahead and transplant them into the garden. But if not, that'll probably wrap up my video. But I'm gonna go ahead and harvest everything. I'll probably take a couple pictures to show what it looks like before and after. That way you can get a good idea of what I was actually able to perform in the garden today. So like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and harvest some things. I'll show what the harvest looks like. I'll go ahead and pull some weeds, water everything, and then I'll think about transplanting as well too. All right, so that's the first harvest right there. That's just the arugula that I was able to get just from this part right here. As you can see, the plant is still doing, or all 4 plants are still doing real healthy. And then, like I said, with the leafy vegetables, they grow from the inside out. So I harvest some of the small leaves, some of the big leaves, but mainly from the outside. That way it hopefully doesn't stunt the growth with so much. But that's harvest number 1 with the arugula. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do some more lettuce, spinach, kale, and probably collards too. All right, so I pretty much harvested everything. That was pretty easy to do. I don't want to pick the bowl up because I actually got it soaking in water, but I have arugula, spinach, lettuce, Swiss chard, kale, all in here as well. And I'll probably, the way the plants have been growing, I'll probably be able to harvest them every 2 to 3 days. And I got some more plants that I recently planted too. So I'm hoping I'll be able to keep this going throughout the entire summer. But that was pretty quick and easy to go ahead and get a full bowl of like the salad type greens. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head back over to the garden bed real quick, just to show what it looks like. I've already weeded it, and then I've watered it as well too. And I'm gonna inspect my seedlings to see if I'm gonna transplant any. I don't think I am, but I'm gonna just show a quick update on what the rest of the garden beds look like. Check out the seedlings, and then I'll determine if I'm gonna go ahead and transplant anything else or not. All right, so you can see that the arugula plants look a little bit smaller because I harvested them. I didn't want to take all the leaves off of this kale plant, so I only harvested like 2 or 3 leaves. And then everything else is growing fine. Zucchini, squash, kale right there, the scarlet kale right there. Growing a little bit slower, but it looks healthy. Beets have really started to come out the ground. I'm gonna thin those out probably in the next couple days. Planted some beans right there. You can see where they kind of been breaking through the soil. Planted 3 different types of beans in that little spot right there. Arugula and bok choy starting to come up. Cucumbers transplanted, okra right there in the bag. Okra looks like it's probably about to sprout too. I saw some soil breakage right there. I didn't decide to harvest the the collards, and the broccoli is going a little bit slower, but I didn't decide to harvest the collards yet. But this is what this garden bed pretty much looks like. I'm gonna go to the ones in the back in just a second too. Didn't harvest anything out of this bed. I want to zoom in because I can see one of the beets that are starting to come out of the ground. So it might be hard to see. But right there is where the beet is starting to come out of the ground, right there. So I'll be harvesting the beets and the carrots probably within the next couple weeks. I'll definitely do a recording on how to harvest those properly and the best time to harvest those. You can see the parsley starting to come in really well. Another set of carrots is coming in. The basil that I planted hasn't sprouted yet, but it should sprout soon, and I'll probably plant some more carrots here in the next couple weeks. And then this is the garden bed with the lettuce, Swiss chard, and spinach. I harvested some of all of those. The Swiss chard, I'll probably harvest some of those bigger leaves probably next week. I just didn't want to take away all the leaves where it's not able to, like, you know, continue to grow and get big. So that pretty much, oh, and this right here too. And so in my previous video, I recorded how to make a pea trellis. So whenever I recorded it, you can probably see that it was all the way at the bottom, but like just coming from a lower angle, you can see how much they've grown, how much they climb. These tendrils that I was talking about, they pretty much wrapped around multiple parts of the trellis, and I mean it's a real sturdy trellis and sturdy plants. So I anticipate them flowering pretty soon, and hopefully I'll be able to harvest some peas within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Once it starts to get too hot, it kills the plant anyway. It can't take up so much heat anyway. But I think they've had rapid growth ever since I was able to you know, transplant them. I'm sorry, not transplant them, but build a trellis around them. And I just noticed as I was looking at here is this little caterpillar. I'm gonna go ahead and have to pull that off, because if I don't, he's gonna try to eat my food, and I can't have that. So after this, I'm gonna go ahead and head to the greenhouse and show what the seedlings look like, and then I'll decide if I'm gonna transplant any of those too. All right, so I'm going into the greenhouse now with the seedlings. These are the ones that I'm gonna keep for myself in the garden. They've been growing the quickest, so I know I can go ahead and transplant them, and then I can just continue to keep these growing while I figure out who I'm going to be able to give them to. Just looking at them right now, I don't think I'm gonna transplant them just yet. This tomato plant right here is probably ready to go. Really, I mean, it's warm enough to the point where any of them can really go in the garden. I just kind of like to keep a better eye on them, get them to a certain size before I actually transplant them in the garden. This bell pepper right here is probably ready to go. But I'll probably give it a couple more days. It's been rapid growth on all of them just with the amount of sunlight that I've been getting. The only bad thing is I've been having to definitely keep up with the watering on them, because I think these peat pots really dry the soil out way quicker than I prefer them to. So I don't think I'm gonna transplant anything, but I'm gonna go ahead and water everything real quick and put them outside so they can get full sunlight. And here's some of the like herbs and some of the Carolina Reaper peppers too. But yeah, I think I'm gonna just go ahead and put them outside, let them grow a little bit more for a couple days, maybe give them one more feeding, and then transplant them into the garden. But you know, with that being said, that pretty much wraps up my video. I don't really have too much else that I'm gonna do in the garden outside of watering these, and I don't need to show that. But if you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll keep updates on all those garden beds, you know, how I'm harvesting everything, and then just different tips and tricks to, you know, do in your garden. But until next time, y'all, peace.